by your coach, Mr. Sudhir, to give you a little bit of an overview on project planning. Are you guys, everybody able to hear me? At least hear me, if not see me?
Yep, they can.
Okay, perfect. Just making sure. So I understand all the kids are on mute right now, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so I will keep going on, and if there's any questions or anything, Sudhir, do they stop and ask me a question, or
no, they would put a hands up symbol. Let me ask Kavya, can you just raise your hand? You will see, can you see Kavya on the screen? Yeah, she's going to press the button that will say raise hand. So did you see that? You can see Sammy also raised her hand. Can you see them?
No, I cannot see any raised hands quite yet.
If you swipe the participants list, you will be able to see everybody has raised their hand.
Yeah, I see. Okay, yeah, I see it now. Okay, I got the participants list in front of me.
Okay, great. So they would raise their hand and lower. When you take a pause, I would go through each one of them if they raise their hand at a logical point.
Okay.
Excellent.
So I will keep going, and then if I need to stop and explain something, you let me know.
Yep.
Okay. Today's theme, so to speak, that your coach wanted me to talk to you people was about project planning. And I mean, I don't want to get too technical about how project planning should be done or has been done in the past. But just as an adult, you know, and as people, as an engineer who's doing project management and project planning through my work, I'm sure a lot of your parents are doing the same in their line of work as well. So, see, and I have a certification called Project Management Professional Certification that some of your parents may have as well. So the thing to know about this is project management is a term that has been invented based on years and years of knowledge and wisdom gained by professionals throughout the industry who kind of put a book together called the Project Management Book of Knowledge, as we call it PMBOK, or Project Management Book of Knowledge. And so again, I don't want to talk about that book or everything that is in that process. I want to give in a very simple layman terms what project planning, which is part of project management, obviously, is all about. And see, again, without getting, like I say, too sophisticated with this thing, think of things that you do every day. You know, it could be small things even, that without your knowledge, there is some planning that you need, that your brain is tuned to think about and strategize. I mean, you may be doing project planning without knowing that you're doing project planning. And the goal is to get more aware of the planning process that your brain is already doing. You know, for instance, I was going to give you an example, a very down-to-earth, very simple example. Like, let's say all of you are like average 10-year-old, 11-year-olds, right? So let's say your parents, one of these days, let's say you're staying in your home by yourself, or by you have a sibling, whatever, you know, and then your parents just say, hey, why don't you cook a pasta for dinner tonight, and they leave for shopping, okay? They at 6 p.m. your parents just leave, let's say, and then they give you a project. The project is cook a pasta for dinner, and then they leave. Okay, that's it. No other details are available, and I'm doing this for a reason. Okay, so I'm giving this example for a reason, because this is how in real life projects will be. You may think that when somebody says a project, you know, the person who's giving you a project, his name is called the project sponsor. And a sponsor typically pays for the project, and in your case, whatever projects that you guys are undertaking, your parents are your sponsors. Your parents are paying for the project, and the parents are the ones that are giving you a project or telling you what project to do, let's say. And you can come up with your own project too, and your parents can be financiers, meaning they will pay for you to execute a project. So, with that said, see, go cook something for dinner. If a parent says that, that's the name of your project, okay? And a lot of times, you're not given any more detail than that. Now, if something like as basic and as open-ended as that is being given to you, obviously you have to ask yourself the question, how much planning should I do? See, okay, here's what the brain will do. The human brain will automatically start doing it, okay? I mean, you can say, uh, you can just not take the project seriously and not even respond. That is one way to do project planning, which is, again, that's not something we're going to talk about. That is meaning you're not interested in the project. That's different. Assuming you're interested in the project, what are the steps that your brain or yourself, consciously, what are the steps that you will undertake? You're not going to jump in and start cooking right away, right? So you're going to ask yourself a few questions. For instance, and that's what the planning process comes into the picture, okay? First of all, for cooking a pasta, let's say, my parents didn't tell me, look at all the things your parents didn't tell you. They told you go cook a pasta. They didn't tell you several things. And it's up to you to kind of use your best judgment and figure out those kinds of things. And some of those things you just have to assume. Some of those things you have to estimate. Some of those things you have to ask the question to your sponsor. Maybe call your parents after they leave the home and ask them the question. But you can't ask all questions, and you can't make all assumptions, or you can't make all guesstimates. Okay, it has to be a mix and match of several types of things that you do. For instance, in this particular project, go cook a pasta is a project, right? In that project, your parents didn't tell you what time they are back or what time that's dinner. So you don't know if you have 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours to cook the pasta. That's one thing. Okay. The second thing is, they didn't tell you how many people to cook pasta for. Did they tell you how many people to cook the pasta for? Just for yourself and your sibling, or for the whole family, or just for the parents and not for you? You don't know that. So how many people should I cook for? By what time should the cooking be done? That those are all schedule related and quantity. So how many people should I cook for? It's a quantity thing. How soon should I complete the cooking? It's a time or schedule thing. And then you have, do I have all the materials that I need? Do I have pasta? Do I have water? For instance, something as basic as that. Some of those materials you may be able to get very easily, like water comes in a tap, and you have water. But do you have pasta? If you don't have pasta in your home, then do you have means to go to your store and get it? And if you don't have the means to go get it within a reasonable period of time anyway, then your project is stopped on its tracks right there. So you have no means of delivering the project because you have a resource problem right to begin with. So simple as it may sound, things that we are doing seat of the pants, or we are doing intuitively or instinctively in day-to-day lives. All of us are project managers, by the way. You're not just your parents who are managing projects at work. Okay, let's say I'm a transportation engineer. Let's say I'm managing a roadway project. Okay, those are not the only things that are called projects. We manage projects on a day-to-day basis, right? Any mission that's given to you is a project. Cooking a meal is a project. Getting ready to go to school in the morning is a project. Preparing for an exam is a project. Preparing for a mission is a project. A lot of these things, we don't use the term project because they're so small sometimes, and sometimes things are done repetitively every day, so we don't call them projects. But the thing is, as you guys grow older and take on more and more difficult and challenging and different types of tasks in life, like in your studies, be it at work, be it in your extracurricular activities like robotics. Like robotics is an extracurricular activity, and you have different missions and projects that you guys are doing as part of robotics as well. So as things get busier and busier, and the challenge level goes up, you will find that anything, things as simple as cooking a meal, you have to get organized. You have to do some planning. Okay, so I mean, let's go back to the cooking example. So the parents just said pasta. They didn't say what kind of pasta. Italian pasta, with pasta that has vegetables in it, or pasta that doesn't have vegetables in it. I mean, do you need cheese? What cheese? How cheese? I mean, there's ravioli. There's so many kinds of pastas that I don't even know the names of those. So when you have so many variables, there are so many knowns and unknowns. That is where project planning comes into the picture. Okay, and that is why silly as it may sound, something like as silly or as basic as cooking a meal, do I have to do any planning? The answer is yes, you bet you have to do planning. And that is the important part of planning. And in English, there is a saying, a job well begun is half done. Okay, so half the job, 50% of your success is all in planning the work. Okay, you got to understand what the project is. You have to come up with a plan. Okay, and the plan has several components to it, and I will talk about those in a minute. And again, I don't want to get too technical. So in the real world project, the typical things, and I'll just touch upon these. It's okay if you don't understand these terms, but it's important for me to explain these terms to you anyway. See, there's something called scope, there's something called time or schedule, and there's something called cost, and then there's something called quality, and then you also need resources. It could be human resources or raw materials, and then you have something called communications. Okay, communications is something that's very, very important. As projects get bigger, they have a separate plan on how to communicate. In this case, at what stage do I call my mommy or daddy to see what pasta they really wanted? You don't want, because your mommy and daddy left you home, they are on an important task, they're unavailable for next 2 to 3 hours. So you can't keep calling them or texting them about every single decision you make. So you have to, as an independent project executor, it's also upon you to make some independent decisions and then stand by your decisions and explain your decisions as well. You cannot always rely on your project sponsor to tell you what needs to be done. And that is being a part of a project manager as well. And that is why communications come into the picture. And then there is another thing called risk, and then there is another thing called procurement. So risk means what are the risks you're taking. In the case of, for instance, let's say you are cooking a pasta, and if you have an electric stove as opposed to a gas stove, okay. Let's say you don't know how to turn on your gas stove. Let's say you during cooking something, you turn on the gas stove and it causes a problem. The gas blows up. The whole thing is not worth it at that point, right? So what are the risks involved? I mean, is there a chance that you would burn down the whole kitchen because you don't know enough to handle things in the kitchen? And the other question about that is, if your parents had known that you are not able to take that risk, they would not have given you the project. So that is another way to look at it as well. So like I say, the basic things you need to think about is scope. Scope, what is scope? A pasta for us to eat a quality dinner. That's all the scope of the project is. Nobody's having you cook pasta for 100 people in a cooking contest where judges are going to come and judge your quality of your cooking in a competitive setting. Okay, so you got to understand the scope. Scope in this case means context. Okay, what is the context in which you are asked to cook? Think of that as a scope. Okay, and then time. Do I need the pasta in 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours? That's the time or schedule that you need. And then cost. Okay, if you have pasta stock at home, then you can just close to no cost. But if you had to go to the store, maybe run down to the corner store, maybe you or your brother or sister, whoever an adult is going to get you something, let's say, then the cost. You're not going to spend hundreds of dollars buying pasta. You may as well go to a restaurant and eat pasta. So your budget for this whole project is maybe $10, and you got to be reasonable, So how much money are my parents expecting me to spend in cooking a pasta? So you have to estimate that as well. And quality, quality is a relative thing. Sometimes it's an absolute thing. So you don't want to cook a pasta that is uneatable at the end of the day. You want to cook a pasta that's at least palatable, right? So what is the quality standard? Obviously you are not trying to go compete against other people who are pasta experts. So you're not talking about out of the world quality here either. So these are the little things, but exhaustive things, silly as it may sound, or why are we having to ask so many questions to just cook a damn pasta? You may wonder. But that's how it has been formulated, in the project management process. As the projects get bigger and bigger and bigger, you will begin to see the value of getting yourself organized like this, and recognize that you need plan for everything. Okay, each one of these is called a domain. All the things that I mentioned, like scope, time, cost, quality, resources, communications, risk. And then finally, there's something called procurement. Procurement means buying stuff that you need. Going to the store and buying some of the things, that's called procurement. So in some situations, you don't have the materials you need. So you have to go procure it so that you can complete your project. So that's another domain as well. So every one of these domains has a plan for it. There's a project plan that's an overarching plan that integrates all of these different domains. And then each one of these domains has a plan as well. Like there's a scope management plan, there's a time management plan, there's a cost management plan, there's a quality management plan, there's a resources management plan, there's a communication management plan, there's a risk management plan, and then there's a procurement management plan. So ideally, you should, depending on the size and complexity and the need for the project, even large projects don't have all these 9 different plans. Okay, usually if a project has 3 or 4 different plans for these 3 or 4 different critical domains, then that means the project is fairly large and complex right there. See, as the project is smaller and smaller, all that you may have is a very generic single plan called the project management plan. Okay, and that's what Sudhir Uncle is having you guys do. Your projects are not these multi-million-dollar. You're not putting a man on the moon. You are not sending a mission to the moon or Mars quite yet. No, you're not designing a real-world robot that can go put out fires or go dive underwater underneath the oceans and rescue that Malaysian airline missing flight or anything. So your projects are not huge projects like that. Okay, but your projects are small missions like that you're doing for your robot games, or you're doing small class projects or whatever. For those kinds of projects, a simple project management plan, it could be a simple 1-page document. It could be a simple Excel spreadsheet. Okay, it's like your parents, let's say they're organizing a Tamil Mandram picnic or something, right? So we still have to do planning, right? So don't they use the Excel spreadsheets, Google Docs to share and stuff like that? I mean, let's say some of your teachers are teaching some Tamil Mandram and all that. Sorry, Tamil school. So they have a calendar schedule, they get planning going as well. So little things like that. As kids, for your age and for your level of involvement in projects, for instance, for whatever mission that Sudhir Uncle is going to give, what could be a good strategy for you guys would be to maybe create a little spreadsheet. Okay, and I can send you a sample spreadsheet that you guys can use to get organized. Okay, the spreadsheet will really have nothing more than a bunch of rows and a bunch of columns. Okay, so we talked about the rows. The rows are the scope, time, cost, quality, resources, communication, risk, procurement. All those things are the different rows, meaning what are the different items you need to plan for. Okay, and then there's the columns in that spreadsheet as well. And those columns are the different phases, different stages of project management. And typically there are at least 3 or 4 stages. Okay, and in your case, Go ahead, Sudhi.
Yeah, Ravi, do you have that Excel sheet with you now? I can share it on the screen for them.
Okay, I have a very, I mean, I have an Excel spreadsheet that I've used,
Yeah,
but it's not very sophisticated. It's very basic.
that's enough.
I'm going to say, okay, can you share my screen with them?
Yep, you can share. You just have to click share screen in your this thing. If you open it, you can share screen.
So it says host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Okay, hold on. Then I have to manage unlock screen share. Okay, good.
Okay, can we take a break and ask the kids if they're following me so far? I want to make sure that I'm not.
They are, when they have questions, they would raise because it's being recorded too. So they would always be having an opportunity to go through and do it. Go ahead, Ravi. Share your screen.
Okay, I'm sharing an Excel spreadsheet. Are you people able to see my Excel spreadsheet?
Yep.
Okay. Down below on that Excel spreadsheet, I have different tabs. You see a tab called integration.
Let me. You should scroll down. Just scroll down a little bit, or maximize your window, or minimize it. We just need you to go down.
Okay, are you able to see down below where I have the mouse pointer? I have integration. I have
scope. You need to scroll your this thing. What do you call your vertical scroll bar all the way down?
Okay.
Still can't see it because of the bottom. I don't know if others are able to see. Anybody give a thumbs up if you can see that? Yeah, they can see it. Good. Oh, no. Yes. Yes. Good.
So are you able to see integration, scope, time, cost, quality, human resources or resources, communications, and then risk and procurement? Do you see all those tabs?
Yep.
Okay. So those are the different domains. Okay. And for instance, I'm going to open the scope domain. Okay. Each domain or each one of those things is going to be a row in your spreadsheet. And for each one of those items, you have at least 3 or 4 different phases. And it's called the project initiation phase, project planning phase, project execution phase, and then project monitoring and control phase. Okay. You don't need to know all of this because obviously for your day-to-day use in smaller projects, you don't have these 5 different stages for the project. You just have to initiate a project. You have to plan the project. Planning and initiation are one and the same. And then you have to execute the project. And then execution and monitoring is also one and the same. And then finally, you have to close out the project. So if I were to simplify this for you, there's a planning phase, there's an execution phase, execution or monitoring phase, and then finally, there's a closeout phase. And a closeout phase is meaning the lessons learned phase, okay? The planning phase is where we are right now, okay? You never start the cooking project, for instance, without doing some level of planning, okay? In this case, it could be as simple as taking a piece of paper and writing down whether you have all the items that you need to cook a pasta. Do I have milk? Do I have the pasta noodles? Do I have sugar? Do I have cheese? Do I have water? Do I know how to light the stove? Do I have vegetables if I need them? Okay, if I need vegetables, do I need to cut them, or do I have a pre-cut or frozen vegetables? You know, those are all the things that you're going to do. And in your planning phase, you're going to create a little spreadsheet, and you're going to populate that spreadsheet to plan your work. And then execution is the actual doing the work. Okay, so in some of those phases, you know, for instance, quality. You see, if you go to quality, see, you don't know, you cannot monitor quality of your project after in the planning phase, right? So in the planning phase, all that you can say is, I'm going to try and meet a certain level of quality standard. Okay, you can tell yourself, okay, this is the level of quality I am going to meet, and then you can hold yourself accountable to the level of quality. But there's really nothing for you to do in the planning phase other than establish what your quality standard is. And then in the execution phase, you will actually test your product for quality. It's like, if, let's say you have a robot mission, you're going to say in the planning phase, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to make sure my robot runs 90% of the times correctly. And that's just a goal. Okay, there's nothing to do. So you're going to set a goal. For a quality goal is the planning phase. In the execution phase, you're going to ask the question, okay, how many times am I testing? When I test and debug and improve my robot missions and runs, how many times am I passing? For the initial runs, see, I'm trying to score 10 points for this mission, and I'm able to score 10 points 1 out of 10 runs. Okay, 8 out of 10 runs, I'm scoring 0 missions, 0 points, and then maybe 1 out of 10 times I'm scoring 10 points. So that's not a very good success rate, right? So because you are not meeting your own quality standards. So that is how in the execution phase, you should say, you're going to test your own quality control, and then you are going to get better at it. So, and then that's your execution and monitoring phase. So every domain will have certain level of importance during different phases of the project. And then finally, there's something called the closeout phase. That is after, let's say you go to your tournament and you did a mission, you participated in a tournament. Whether you win or lose is relatively secondary. What is important is, at the end of a tournament, what are the lessons you learned from it? That's called the closeout phases. Okay, these are all the things that we did. These are all the things that we planned. These are all the things that we executed. These are all the results we achieved. We could have done this, and this better. We did do this, and this better. And then these are the lessons learned that we will use going forward. That is the closeout phase. It's almost a lessons learned phase. And then in a real world application, you have to put your files away. How many of you have files that you created last year? All the robot programs that you wrote, all the different types of programs you wrote and you tested. For the line following theory, you guys know how to write the line following code, right? But how many of you have actually saved that program that you can use this year? Exactly where, did you know where exactly to save it? Or did you archive your files? Did you save your files, or did you give those files to your parents and have them save it someplace where you can go find them? Those are all the things that you learn from your closeout phase. Okay, so that is pretty much all there is to it. At the end of the day, project management, folks, is really not rocket science. Like again, someone will tell you, you see, project management is as much of an art as it's a science. There is no particular way to do certain things. It's like saying there is no particular way to fleece a cat. Somebody gave you a cat, different people will fleece a cat differently. So you cannot say this is the way you should fleece a cat. Same thing. Some smaller the project gets, there may be multiple ways to achieve the same result, and a lot of it's based on individual working styles and personalities as well. But as projects get more and more bigger and more and more complex, and in your case you have 9 kids on the same team, right? So it's a huge teamwork as well. So these are the kinds of reasons why project planning becomes so important, and that will be my message for you guys. Don't think of project planning as something very trivial. All projects need some level of planning, but the level at which you are in right now, you should still try and do some very small level of planning collectively. You don't have to think about every single domain or every single thing that may apply on larger projects may not apply to you. So, but regardless, I would like for you to work closely with your coach and come up with the basics of project planning, for this year, the specific missions and whatever it is that you guys need to learn. Your coach is going to tell you what it is, but I'm giving you more of a theoretical overview as to how project planning works. So hopefully I made sense. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Ravi.